Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Mansfield Downtown Partnership Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. I'm assuming, Kathleen, we have had no public comments submitted.
We have not.
Fantastic. In your packet, you will find our next agenda item, the approval of minutes from September 5th, 2024. I will give everyone a minute to take a peek, and then I will accept the motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the September, what was that, 5th, 2024 minutes for the Mansfield Downtown Partnership.
Yes, sir. Motion from Brian. Do I have a second? Second from Tony. All in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic. Kathleen, we'll turn it over to you for the report by the acting executive director.
Okay. Well, the first thing is if you have been walking or driving around downtown today, you will have seen our new pedestrian wayfinding signs. They are nearly completely installed. They'll finish up tomorrow. This is part of the wider town wayfinding signage program. If you all recall, this is several years in the making. It stemmed from the positioning and branding plan that the town adapted in late 2018 to create a stronger visual identity and brand for the town, in addition to promoting the town, marketing the town, bringing in visitors, businesses, residents. And so the signage program is partially to help improve navigation through town, both with pedestrians and vehicles. It's also to highlight municipally owned facilities and other town amenities, and then to support the town's brand. So it's consistent signage, a consistent format with colors, fonts, things like that, so that a visitor can tell where they're going. But like, if you tried to follow the signs before, you may have noticed we had at least 3 different styled signs directing you to the parking garage. And as a visitor, that is very confusing. So this is just a minor example of how this will help the visitor experience. So we have some informational kiosks around the downtown, with one more to come, and then pedestrian wayfinding to help get people to the garage, to the Ballard, to different amenities within town. The next thing I had to update on is the festival, and I'm really going to leave the bulk of that report to Emily, but I just wanted to take a chance to acknowledge Emily for all of her help this year. She did a lot more than is normally required by the committee chair to help us, since we were working with a smaller staff this year. And I just, both Rosemary and I very much appreciated her help, especially on the day of. She was there from very early in the morning till very late at night, and so thank you, Emily. Another event we've had since our last meeting is the Downtown Boo Bash. And this was our trick-or-treating event that has now combined with Parks and Rec's Trick-a-Trunk. This is the second year we've done the combined event, and I think the new format's working really well. The visitors all had very positive feedback that we've received. We're still working out our final numbers, but we had well over 2,000 people in attendance. So yeah, the new format worked well. We had over 40 businesses that participated in both aspects of the event. The final number of downtown businesses was somewhere over 25, because I had some late ads that just saw it was, that morning that they were going to do it. So I have to tally that. And then I do want to thank Brian. He and Rosemary staffed the partnership table for us this year, handing out treats. And yeah, so that one went well. We have one more event left on our 2024 calendar, and that is Winter Welcome. That will be Saturday, December 7th, from 4 to 6:30 p.m. Rosemary and I are working on that, and hopefully we'll have some plans finalized and pushed out in the next week or so. But I hope you all can mark your calendars to attend. It'll be a busy day downtown because the Boston Pops will be at Jorgensen that evening. So it'll be, if you wanted to, you could come winter welcome, go out to dinner downtown, and then end your night with the Boston Pops. So it'll be a nice evening. And then last but not least, Taste Two Towns, Mansfield Wyndham Restaurant Week. Our group is meeting tomorrow to finalize the date. So you'll start to see the save the dates pop up for that, but it will be 2 weeks in the first quarter of 2025. And I also wanted to update you on the general economic development within the town. Since our last meeting, we've had several new businesses open in town. One in the downtown, which was Code One. They are in 9 Dog Lane, so right next to Square Peg. This is a business that does CPR training. And what's really cool about this group is that the business began in the Yukon dorm room by 2 nursing students who are now married and owners of this business, and they've expanded greatly. So we were very happy to welcome them here. I think Tony attended that ribbon cutting. So thank you, Tony. Aspen Dental, Chipotle, and Five Guys are all now open on the southern end of town. This is in a new building that was part of the Champagne property. So they've constricted the Champagne Motor Company's building and created a new building to the side between it and the Hoot. It's been, I think, well received by the community. And then the last one that's opened since we've met is Lisa's Chocolates and Gifts, and they are in the newly renovated former Mansfield General Store. She actually was a tenant there before the sale of that building, and so it's nice to see her return, and she has had a very warm welcome from her fans here in town. And then looking ahead, we have 3 more businesses coming, and we're excited about these. In the downtown, Nikki's Doghouse will be opening next to Chang's. I have not yet had a chance to connect with those owners, so I don't know what their exact timeline is, but I hope to have that for you at the next meeting. In Mansfield Center, a business called Dad's Doughs will be opening at 483 Stores Road, which is the former Grange building. State Farm is on the upper part of the building. Dad's Doughs will be in the lower. It's cake donuts, and they'll have rotating flavors, open 7 days a week. It's someone born and raised in Mansfield. They live in a neighboring town now, but they are a local resident opening, and it's exciting. He's working really hard to get open November. Just waiting on some shipments of equipment and things like that. And then the last one we have opening is called Crispy Sicilian. This is going to be in the Four Corners neighborhood. It will be in the old bank building that's next to Dick's Autos. She is also a Mansfield resident, and this is a really cool concept. It's a takeout only, but it's prepared meals and Italian food favorites. So pasta, lasagna. She's going to be doing soups. She'll have pastries, and she'll have ready to eat. She'll also have heat. She called it boil in a bag. So it's like meals that are prepared, and then you do the final part of the cooking, and then she'll have frozen. So if you want to stock up on soups, you can stop by, get your favorite soup, and have it just ready to go. So she is looking to open in mid to late November, and we're organizing a ribbon cutting for her in early December. I'm also helping with Dad's Doughs ribbon cutting. And with that, we do the associated press support. And then we're also helping the owner of the general store, because his renovations are now complete. There will be 2 apartments on the upper level, Lisa's Chocolates on the ground floor, and then in the lower level, he'll have an office, and an artist has leased space to give classes. So we're going to do a ribbon cutting for him and we're working on the scheduling of that now, and I've sent him a draft press release, so that once we get that date set, we can start promoting, and I'll let you all know when that is. Also, a big economic development news is you may have seen in your packet in the press is that the Eastbrook Mall has a new owner. They are out of Maryland. They own many commercial properties, but this is their first in Connecticut. And town staff and myself, we've reached out to the new owners, and we're hoping to connect with them soon and get a good understanding of what their plans are beyond what was in, you know, the news articles, and welcome them to town and see how we can support their efforts. And then I also wanted to let you know, I attended a tourism talk last week that the Northeastern Connecticut Chamber of Commerce hosted at Little Dipper Farm, which is was the Golden Lamb. And the event was attended by the Connecticut Tourism Director, Rachel Lenda, and then elected officials from the Northeast, including one of our reps, state reps, Pat Boyd, and then our state senator, May Flexer. And I attended that in my role as Mansfield's representative on the Eastern Region Tourism District Board. So it was a good opportunity to just see a lot of the other ERTD folks, but also just hear about other towns' experiences with tourism as an economic driver. And last but not least, Taste of Mansfield is an initiative that the partnership has been involved with in our economic development role. Rosemary has been staffing that group, and they are working on a special program, and I want to invite you all to it. It's our community dinner. It'll be on Wednesday, November 13th at 5:30 at the middle school. And I'll send a flyer with a registration link for you once I have the final version of it. But it is a free event, but space is limited, so registration is required. And this is something that we had done pre-pandemic, and this is our first one since the pandemic. So we're excited to host it, but it's a community dinner open to everybody. It's free, and it will feature all locally grown foods prepared by the Mansfield Schools food service director. So that is my update. I'm sorry if that was too quick.
Fantastic. No, that's fine, Kathleen. Anybody have any questions for Kathleen? Brian?
I don't have a question. I just have a couple of comments, and that's a plate full of new businesses. I'm very excited. Some of which are right next door to me. I'm very much looking forward to a coffee and donut shop that I can visit daily and walk to and get some exercise at the same time. The Pooh Bash was featured on the front page of the Chronicle yesterday. Got some good press out there too. It was a wonderful time, beautiful weather, a lot of great costumes, a lot of happy people. Thoroughly enjoyed that again this year. Thanks for your report, and it's a pile of good news.
Anybody else? Tony?
I worked the poll at the bookstore yesterday and happened to end up spending the morning sitting with Andre Benetton, who's the guy who owns the general store. So that was very interesting. And I think he's somebody we ought to try to recruit.
He is a member of the partnership as a business member. So,
Well, maybe we can get him a little more active. I think that both the southern end of the town has really begun to pick up, and I think it's way overdue and a really good news.
Awesome. Anyone else? Fantastic. Thanks very much, Kathleen. That was awesome. Let's jump into reports from committees, and Emily, can't wait to hear all about the festival.
Well, Kathleen was overly nice towards me because she also stole my thunder. I was going to sing her praises because, in fact, with a very bare bones staff, Kathleen and Rosemary pulled off, I think, one of the best festivals we had. They worked really hard, and Kathleen specifically hustled towards the very end to bring in quite a good amount of sponsorships. I could not believe kind of the headway that she made in the last few weeks to kind of solidify more co-sponsorships to put us in a really good space, and all the coordinating that she had to do with the vendors and the volunteers and everything. So it happened totally because of Kathleen's oversight. And so I think we had probably one of our bigger festivals with over 100 businesses, community organizations, and Yukon entities participating. We had 181 volunteers, but it ran, I think, really smoothly this year, and that's thanks to Kathleen kind of managing the schedules and making it work really smoothly, so that I think a lot of the booths were really happy with the support they received. So those 181 people worked nearly 500 hours that day to make everything come together. And that was all of the committee members who volunteered. Thank you to you all, to our area captains, headquarter volunteers, board members, and the student volunteers. And so we estimated, I think Kathleen was saying, it's hard to count, but we estimated we had around 3,500 people, which I think is very consistent with, last year and kind of pre-COVID numbers. And, we had key logistical support, thanks to the town of Mansfield, the public works, town facilities, fire, police, and Yukon dining services. So overall, I think the feedback was really positive that I received at headquarters, and that Kathleen also heard about the bands and about the number of vendors. And I think, the increased food options was really great. A lot of the food vendors sold out before the event was even over, which was really exciting. And a lot of the vendors, I think, were very positive and excited to come back. So I think overall it was a really great day.
Brian?
Again, great job. I mean, it was very heavily attended. I arrived there towards the end and helped in a cleanup effort. I was absolutely surprised that you recruited 181 people. You had an army of people there, so it made my job easy that night too as well. But I do have one thing I need to bring up that I've noticed a couple of times, and it's about handicap access. I know we have a crosswalk that goes over to the garage entrance, and the library satellite there, but during events like that, we fill that sidewalk up with vendors and other people. And when that sidewalk is full of people, handicapped people don't have any real access to a ramp to actually get in the garage. That ramp only gives you access to the sidewalk to get down to the garage. So if you could look into maybe providing an extra ramp or access there, I think that'd be very helpful.
That's a really good point. We're working to schedule a debrief meeting, so I'll make sure to bring that up and to kind of think about that as we plan out the site plan for next year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great call out, Brian. Any other questions or any other comments? Awesome. Well, thank you, Kathleen and Rosemary and Emily and all the volunteers. Obviously the festival is sort of what the partnership is known for. It's the bread and butter. So fantastic job by everybody. Tony, finance and growth. I know it'll be fresh in your mind.
Yes, it is. We had a meeting and we have a motion to recommend that you accept the June 30th, 2024 financials. This is the end of the year summary. The good news from this one is that we saved some money in a number of areas and we received more donations. So we have been able to add $54,000 to our reserves. So some of it was salary savings from Cynthia's departure. Some of it was a significant increase in contributions. I think the contribution increase is thanks to Kyle's work with the businesses, but we have a nearly $10,000 increase there, and the other changes are incremental and modest and so on. But we were able to generate quite a bit more money than expected, and it's gone to the right place. One of the things that the committee has asked Kathleen to do is to work with the finance department to make sure that our records are done in the same format as the towns, so that we understand where the money is going. But there are several categories that seem to overlap that don't fit with our categories, and we need to clarify what goes where.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have any questions or any comments for Tony before we vote on the motion to approve? Fantastic. Okay, so all in favor of accepting the report? Any opposed? Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate it. Next is governance, and governance, we met on Monday. And there are a couple items in your packet related to the governance committee meeting. The first is the election of the partnership officers. The bylaws outline the officers' positions of president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. The recommended action from the governance committee is puts forward the following slate for election and approval. Kyle Muncy as president, continuing as president, Tony Moran continuing as vice president, Sean Vasington taking over as secretary, and Mario Conjura taking over as the treasurer. Do we have if we have any questions or concerns relative to that, feel free to ask now. And if not, I will accept the motion, and that motion is in the packet.
Kyle?
Yes.
I just want to say that I have agreed to be vice president. I think we ought to be looking for younger members of our board to move up into that position. I'm willing to stay there and to do the work of the vice president, but I think we really need to be working on succession planning.
I agree. I think we should all be looking for successors. I think our number one responsibility this year is to find our successor. Okay, do I have a motion to, can anyone read the motion to me, please? I mean, I'll read the motion if you, Ron, thank
I'll
you.
move to elect Kyle Muncy president, Tony Moran as vice president, Sean Vasington as secretary, and Mario Conjura as treasurer for the fiscal year 24-25.
Great. All in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic. Okay. The next agenda item is the approval of committee chairs and members. At our meeting on Monday, the governance committee nominated the following committee chairs and members for approval by the board. They are in your packet. I'm not going to read them. I will state openly and plainly that we are looking for additional members of governance and working through that. We did not, at the risk of people quitting, we did not ask anybody on the festival committee if they wanted to remain. We just assumed they wanted to because they all did such a fantastic job. And the obvious one change is that Mario now, as the treasurer, is joining finance and growth and will take over as the chair for finance and growth going forward. Thank you, Mario, for accepting that nomination. And so can I have a motion to accept the committees and chairs as presented? Tony?
I so move.
All in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic. All right. All right, Kathleen's thinking about retiring, so she would like to talk about a retirement plan option next on the agenda. Kathleen?
Kathleen, I think there's a typo in the memorandum here. It says you are eligible. I think you meant you are ineligible.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's we're eligible to continue in this type of plan with Mission Square, but we have to move out into our own separate plan, not in the town, under the town umbrella. Originally, the question was, could we even have this type of plan? But because of the status as a quasi-governmental agency, we can stay in. So sorry if that was not clear.
Okay,
I think we discussed this maybe 2 meetings ago, so very quickly, this boils down to a technical question raised about whether or not the partnership could be included in Mission Square's program for our retirement benefits, which we have been in since prior to, I think with Cynthia's hiring, so at least 21 years. And so Cynthia and our former council had worked with the town and their representatives at Mission Square and their representatives for several months hashing this out. The conclusion was we are a quasi-governmental agency. We can stay in this program, but we need to be in a separate pot, so to speak, that is labeled partnership rather than be in the pot labeled town. At one point in the discussion, there was a question about moving to a new vendor. And so Cynthia had met several times with Equitable Advisors. The town has chosen to remain with Mission Square. And so because we hadn't had any issues with the Mission Square other than this technical question, and because the town is also staying with Mission Square, my recommendation would be that we stay with Mission Square as the simplest solution to this. And so that's what I've presented as the recommended action, but it would be up to the board. Basically, this would just be, there will be some paperwork to do, but it's just creating a new pot for us that says partnership. The town, through our shared services agreement with the finance to do our payroll and our financial stuff, would still be taking care of the day-to-day, contributions when we get our paycheck and things like that. So functionally, it shouldn't really change too much to stay with Mission Square.
Great. Any questions, Brian?
Yeah, so we're status quo. My concern in the previous meeting is that if we went to a different vendor, perhaps some sort of benefits could be compromised or lost. So when we vote today, we're voting to stay for the status quo and that everybody's benefits remain the same. So I can support that.
Great. There is a motion at the end of the memo if someone would like to make it. I don't know if I'm allowed to make motions. I would just read the
No.
whole packet. Exactly. That's what I thought. It'd be so much more efficient, Tony.
it would be so much more efficient if we all had our agendas up and we,
I mean, I got my 36-inch curved monitor. I got them all open here.
Next time I'll be prepared for class and have everything up in front of me, and then I can help you out with the motions. My apologies.
As long as nobody prints anything, we're trying to save the trees.
all right.
I can motion.
All right, Emily.
I motion that the acting executive director be authorized to execute such documents and take all actions necessary to transfer the partnership's 457B employee deferred compensation retirement plan to a separate 457B plan at Mission Square.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's all in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic. All right, Kathleen, you're safe to retire in 30 years or so, whenever that
Right.
comes.
Not too soon.
Not too soon. Exactly. Okay. Next on our agenda is and there is a memo in the packet, and then I sent you attachments earlier today or yesterday. I can't remember. They're all running together. We have worked, myself and leadership from the university Ryan and Tony have worked together to, and then have worked with Maria to update the job description for the executive director. That was obviously necessary with Cynthia's departure. So that job description is updated. And we have updated that job description to reflect the needs of the partnership today, but also to anticipate, you know, an opportunity for the future executive director to re-envision the role of the partnership, the geography of the partnership. And so the job description reflects that, and we would hope that the recruitment and search for the next executive director would reflect that as well. So, you know, the job description was presented to you as well as the job ad. And I'm more than happy to take any questions or comments at this point from anyone. And then with a hope that we move forward to approve the job description so that we can post it. Any questions?
One thing, Kyle, if I could just add, I think you did a great job kind of summarizing some of the areas where updates were made to reflect some of just the inherent nature of the townwide work that the partnership has taken on, townwide economic development work that's already happening. And I know we've talked about in the past, you know, there'll be future discussions about whether that continues to be done, you know, kind of by separate contract, the way it's been handled, or potentially by fundamentally, you know, just updating sort of the mission and scope of the partnership to just kind of roll that into what the partnership does. So that's specifically the mechanism by which it provides those services is kind of a conversation for another day when we get into governance. But one thing I did want to make sure to point out, just in the interest of transparency, and this is reflected in the job ad, not the job description, but the job ad, the pay range, it appears on the second page under compensation. Just wanted to be clear and speak to this and say that the pay range, which is as presented and would be included in the job ad if everybody's comfortable with this, aligns the compensation, the base salary for this position to be consistent with the town's director of planning and development. So I think both Cynthia and Jen Kaufman would be able to speak to this based on their years working together, but the sort of the size of the respective staff teams, the budgets, the nature of the work, the complexity of the work, there seems to be, we believe, and Maria, I should point out, our Chief of Shared Services and Administration, who's the town's de facto HR director, contributed her thoughts to this as well. We believe that there's parity there, and the director position was, I think, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 or maybe even $20,000 less in terms of where Cynthia was at the time that she left. And so this is what amounts to a market correction for this position. And I would say this is warranted for a couple of reasons. One, you know, I think probably every member of the board wants to make sure we recruit and retain the best individual to be the next director. And obviously compensation and published compensation will be an important part of that. But also going back to something that we were just talking about in terms of the potential broadening of the scope of the organization in terms of the townwide activity. I think that's another reason why this market correction makes sense. So there is a range. So it accounts for the fact that we might have a less experienced sort of management level professional that gets hired. So obviously not everybody would command the top end of the range, but it does allow for us, you know, if you bring in somebody who's a very seasoned professional, decades of relevant economic and sort of downtown development experience, we want to be able to bring that person in and have them appropriately compensated. So thanks for that.
Kyle,
Yes.
my packet did not include a job description or an ad. So I haven't been able to look at this. I will say as chair of the finance committee that a $20,000 increase in pay for the executive director, which will also have an increase in fringe benefits, may really throw our budget out of whack.
I
Yeah,
got a separate email from Kyle, I believe, with both those documents in it. Maybe you got left out of that email.
no, I sent them as a separate, Tony. It didn't go in the board packet. But
Okay.
we can take the salary and the budget under advisement. As I said, obviously, part of it'll depend in year one, depending on when we make a hire. It'll be a partial year, but that's a good call out. We'll make sure to adjust that.
Yeah, I think the other point is, so obviously I think everybody's, this will make sense to everybody. We, the organization currently is operating under a pretty lean staffing model because in addition to the director position, the events coordinator position is vacant. So certainly for the current budget year, FY25, the approved budget we're already in, there's already been a tremendous amount of salary savings realized. So the extent we're talking about bringing in the next director partway through or halfway through the current fiscal year, budget's not going to be a problem because of those savings, even if the pay plan was adjusted for this year. But Tony, to your point, it definitely would be something that needs to be, factored into and planned for the FY26 budget and beyond if this higher range of pay was adopted.
Any other questions or comments in regards to this? I think if there's nothing else, then I will accept the motion, which is at the end of that summary on page 15 in the packet.
Kyle, I think, Ron, were you trying to
Oh, I
speak?
would just, is it contemplated that the position's salary would be adjusted concurrent with an adjustment in the director of planning's salary? Not the same amount, but the same percentage and so forth.
Yeah,
That
well, I
wouldn't be-
mean, so the annual adjustments in all staff salaries for the partnership, while I think there's always some discussion, I know I've been through 4 budget cycles. I can remember this being a point of discussion each year when it comes to the partnerships budget, talking about what the general wage increase, for town employees in particular, maybe non-union because they're also non-union. So trying to find some level of parity there. But I guess, Ron, since you asked the question, it is a good time for me to point out that what this would be doing is sort of level setting the salary of this position with the director of planning and development as it stands right now. So this is the range for the planning and development director position with the town as of the current fiscal year. And so to the extent that the board wants to make sure that those pay plans essentially track together, there would need to be attention paid to that over time to make sure that this position basically didn't fall behind the other or outpace the other or any of those things.
And Ron, I would add that we have done that I think it was in the executive committee, Tony, where we were comparing the town salary scale to the current staffing within the partnership to make sure that there were alignments, with comparable roles. But it's a good call out, and we'll make sure that, again, once we're back at full staffing and capacity, and the executive director is hired, that this is something that whether it's exec or governance that would take this up and make sure that there's an alignment on that going forward. Great. If there are no other questions, I'm happy to accept the motion that is on page 15 in the packet.
Well, I would make that motion.
Okay. So moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mario seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Last but never least on our agenda is and there's so many articles. I mean, we literally go from page 16 to 50. Good thing we're not printing this sucker. correspondence and communications. Kathleen, we always appreciate you pulling all this together. It's good to get a little catch up. Do you post that anywhere? Like on the website, do you post links to like news and notes connected and related to the partnership, or do you ever send out emails that sort of highlight some of the news and notes type of thing?
We have not previously posted them on our website. We could do that. Occasionally we'll post them on social media. Although if you follow our social media, you'll notice that is one, it's been a little sporadic lately. But I could create a spot for this on our website, and the email, again, you know, I had been doing a weekly events e-blast and a monthly business digest, but I don't have the time right now to do those. But if we were to resume them, that would be maybe a place we could do that. I usually just use it to send to you all, and then the Economic Development Commission gets a version that's more focused on the town as a whole. So.
Great. Fantastic. And with that, I am more than happy to accept a motion to adjourn if no one else has anything else. Motion.
I'll move to adjourn. Well, Steve moves, I'll
Steve
second.
moved, Tony seconded, all in favor. Steve, good to see you, buddy.
Happy Halloween, everybody. And happy early voting / election day voting, whatever your pleasure. Just go vote.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.